So if you saw my last video about transferring colleges, you're probably wondering, maybe I should start my college experience at a community college or maybe a small university and then transfer. I'm going to be talking about the 5 things you should be aware of if you want to transfer. But first, hi, my name is Eesen, and this is the #1 channel for students and new grads seeking to excel. I graduated from the University of Southern California, and I work as a consultant full-time, but in my part-time, I mentor students and I've helped them land jobs at companies like JP Morgan, Disney, Cisco, Adobe, and of course the company I work at, Workday. So topic number 1, will my credits transfer? This is the most important thing you should be thinking about if you'd like to transfer. And the reason is because not every single class you're taking at your current university will transfer to the university you're trying to transfer into. For example, I did a year of community college and a semester at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, and then transferred to USC. When I transferred, while I got unit credit for about 95% of the classes I took, I only got course credit for about 50% of the classes I ended up taking. And what is the difference between unit credit and course credit? Well, every student needs a certain number of units to graduate from their university. For example, at USC, I needed 128 units to graduate with an undergraduate degree. Now, if I wanted to pursue a double major or a dual degree, which I did, or maybe even a progressive master's degree, then I would be required to have more units. But for the sake of this example, let's just say I need 128 units. And I came into USC with a total of 55 units, both from my community college as well as from UAH. And so all of those 55 units would be considered unit credit. However, for me to have graduated from USC, I needed to have completed certain classes and requirements. Out of those 128 units, a certain number of those units have to be certain classes for me to get the degree in business administration. What ended up happening was I got credit for my GEs, I got credit for my math class, I got credit for my English class, which translated to a writing class at USC, but a lot of the classes I took, unfortunately, didn't correlate to a class at USC, so I ended up getting just unit credit for that. Now, why is that a bad thing? Well, it means that I have to take more classes at USC to graduate, and this was the case for me. What I did was, I ended up pursuing a dual degree in accounting, and the reason why that worked out so well for me is because to graduate with a dual degree in business and accounting from USC, you need to have a total of 168 units, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. And so, all the units that I got from my experience at UAH and community college ended up transferring to USC as unit credit. So even though I got course credit for 20 to 24 units, again, just an estimate, I ended up getting unit credit for the remaining number of units. And so that put me on track to get the total 168 units required to graduate with 2 degrees. So again, just to break it down, unit credit would be considered as units that will transfer just to count towards the total unit requirement, and course credit correlates to a class that exists in the university that you want to transfer to that you can take at your existing or current institution. Number 2, will I graduate in 4 years? This is a question students tend to have when they're considering transferring, and the answer really depends on your personal situation. And the questions you need to think about are, how many of your classes will transfer for unit credit versus course credit? What kind of majors do you want to pursue? Are you going to be pursuing a dual degree like me? These are just a few of the questions that you need to ask yourself. And in my personal experience, I transferred with about 3 semesters of classes. I ended up doing a total of 4 years at USC, or 8 semesters. And there are a few reasons for that. For starters, I ended up getting a dual degree in business and accounting, a program that typically takes 4.5 to 5 years. So all things considered, it took me a semester longer than it would have had I started my college experience at USC. So it ended up working for me because I did end up pursuing 2 degrees. Number 3, financial aid and scholarship opportunities. As a transfer student, unfortunately, the opportunity for scholarships is pretty limited. In my case, I was awarded scholarship money as a transfer student. However, after having completed my first year as a transfer student at USC, I was eligible for continuing student scholarships, which is something that may be available to you as well if you are a transfer student, depending on the university you're going to. So the bottom line is, yes, there are fewer opportunities available to you as a transfer student for scholarships, but like I said, in my personal experience, I did end up getting scholarships even as a transfer student, so there are opportunities available, just keep looking for them. Point number 4, look at the acceptance rate. I talked about this in my last video, and it did really surprise me just what the acceptance rate is like at some of these institutions. And it really did surprise me just how high the transfer acceptance rate is when compared to the freshman acceptance rate. So take a look at the acceptance rate for the school you're interested in, because sometimes, yes, while you may have a better shot at applying to that school, sometimes it's really not worth your time. Lastly, just be conscious of how much time you have before you end up graduating from the university that you're transferring to. And the reason I say this is because you'd be surprised at just how fast time flies, especially in college. My case is a little different because I did end up putting in 4 years at USC. However, the typical transfer student only puts in 2 to 3 years at the institution that they're transferring into. Go out of your way to make friends, join organizations as soon as you can, because typically organizations don't allow you to join midway through the semester. Build strong relationships with your professors, because remember, when the time comes that you need a recommendation letter, which it did for me, you will need to have professors who can vouch for you. And also, freshmen have it so much easier because the school typically hosts events just so that freshmen can meet one another and make friends much more easily. The bottom line is be sure to network as much as you can, especially because your time as a transfer student is limited. So in my opinion, these are the 5 most important things to be aware of if you're considering transferring. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the next video.